first step for removing the UV assembly from the right door is to disconnect the power from the UV bulb and let it hang loose. You will either have metal brackets or plastic brackets that hold the UV assembly to the door. If you have plastic brackets, you want to cut the zip ties that hold the container in the door. If you have a metal one, just undo the screws that hold the clamps together and remove them. You also have to remove the water fittings. The easiest way to do this is to remove the compression fitting closest to the UV assembly and pull the hose clear on either side. Be mindful that the tubes will be full of water, as will the UV assembly. Once the tubes are disconnected, you can remove the whole assembly and drain the water. This video will show you how to assemble a new UV assembly. You should have 2 end caps, one solid and one with a hole in it. You should have 2 translucent O-rings. You should have a glass sleeve and a UV bulb. Be extra careful not to touch the UV bulb on the glass with your fingers. The oils from your fingers will damage the bulb. And you should have the full metal canister. The first step is to make sure that the ends of the canister are adequately Teflon taped to reduce any leakage. The second step will be to insert one of the translucent O-rings into each end and make sure you push them all the way down into the base so that they're snug. Okay, once both translucent O-rings are inserted into the metal caps, you want to take the solid end cap and screw it on to the end of the canister with the vertical plumbing fitting. And just get it started, don't screw it in tight. You will then take the glass tube and slide it in the opposite end very carefully until it sockets into the opposite side and you'll feel it. Just like that. Take your UV bulb and your open metal cap and very gently put the metal cap on the top of the bulb so that the O-ring is around the white plastic end. And then you will carefully slide the bulb into the glass cylinder and screw it tight. Make sure you screw both ends tight because the back end isn't tight yet. And that is a newly assembled UV assembly. To install a new UV assembly, first make sure that the power end of the bulb is sticking out toward the edge of the door, out away from the hinges. And then you'll simply stick the canister into your brackets. If they're plastic brackets, you should put a zip tie around them to secure it in place. If you have metal brackets like this, you'll use the included carriage bolts and nut, and you can just tighten it in by hand. The next step is reconnecting your water lines. So you'll take the vertical water line that should still be hanging in your machine, you'll socket it firmly into the left compression fitting on the UV assembly and tighten the hand nut. Just making it hand tight should do it, but make sure that you try to turn it pretty firmly. You'll do the same to the other side. Once that's finished, you'll reconnect the power connector to the end of the bulb. And it'll only go in one direction, so if you try to put it in at 90 degrees, it won't work. Make sure it's lined up and plug it in. And that's it. Your UV assembly should now be functional.